The Brooklyn Nets are finally clear of the darkness that was Billy King's management. With Cleveland picking Colin Sexton this past draft, it ended the string of first-round picks that they owed to other teams. With that first in hand this year, the rebuild can finally begin. Or so you would think. In fact, Sean Marks has been quietly going about rebuilding this franchise from almost nothing. The Nets have actually managed to use their cap space to absorb bad contracts and acquire first-round draft picks. And with these picks, Marks has managed to acquire some amazing talent. But in particular, Caris Levert has blossomed early this season into a wing that looks like he genuinely belongs on a good to great team. This video will cover Levert and Jarrett Allen and what kind of a player they are and what kind of players they can be, before taking a wider look at the Nets roster and their future for this year and going forward. But let's start with Caris. The 24-year-old is entering his third year in the NBA and in his first few games has shown flashes of being a number one option and a great wing scorer. Just a month ago, people were baffled with why Sean Marks refused to include him in a Jimmy Butler trade, but now it kinda makes sense. Levert has been absolutely balling to start the season, and he looks like the kind of player who could easily be a solid third or even second option on a good playoff team. So far this season, he is averaging 19 points, 4.4 rebounds, and 4.6 assists a game to start the season, all while shooting a decent clip from the field. But it is the manner in which he is doing this that is impressive. Levert is a long, skinny 6'7" guard or small forward. When he was drafted and in his first few years, many thought that Caris' size would limit his ability to defend and to score through contact at the rim. And for the first 2 years, you could sometimes see the effect of this on the court. Levert would blow by his player and then come up against an outstretched 7-footer who was preventing his way to the rim. For many players, the best tactic against this is to initiate contact, hang in the air, and then finish. This is incredibly effective as the big man has to stay vertical and can't push back without fouling. It creates the space you need to get a shot off. But if you don't have the core strength required, shooting can be extremely difficult. Guys like LeBron, Kawhi, and DeMar DeRozan are examples of players who are exceptional at this. Levert looks a little bit stronger this year and has been finishing through contact a lot better than he has in the past. But he has also realised that he can use his long skinny arms to finish under and over these players. Levert has been faking players out, going up and under the basket and just simply rising up over defenders with floaters and hook shots. But it's not just the finishing that has gotten better for Caris. He's surprisingly quick for a player who is as tall as he is, and this makes him a tough cover. Guys of his size tend to be slower and Levert can blow by them into the paint. But then, if you put a smaller, faster guard onto him, Caris will just take them down into the post and abuse them there with his height and length. He has also shown the ability to work in the pick and roll to great success. He uses screen set by Jarrett Allen really well to score for himself and occasionally gets a lob pass off to the big fella. But I've found that he tends to be better at scoring in pick and roll situations than setting up his teammates. And this is partially due to his fondness of the mid-range shot. Levert shoots around 36% of his shots from between 3 feet to the 3-point line, and these tend to be pull-up jumpers when he is given an inch of space. But he has been shooting these mid-range shots at around 44%, and this is a pretty good clip for these kinds of shots. Analytics purists might balk at these numbers, thinking that Levert should just be driving and attempting to get to the rim instead of taking inefficient shots from distance. But teams need guys who can shoot these shots to still thrive in the modern NBA, unless you have an insanely gifted guard like James Harden or Steph Curry. But even the Rockets and Warriors take these mid-range shots, with Curry, Chris Paul, Kevin Durant, Harden, and Klay Thompson shooting them frequently. This is especially true in the pick and roll. Teams are now throwing multiple types of defensive coverages at teams running the pick and roll. Sometimes the big will come up and double, sometimes they will switch, and sometimes they will drop back. This change of coverage is geared to not allow the guard to get into a rhythm and run the same play over and over again and perfect it against the same coverage within a game. When teams have their big man drop back, the best shot frequently becomes the mid-range. The big man is giving up the whole area around the free throw line and the guard can pin their defender behind them and rise up for a pretty uncontested shot. Levert has been using this kind of space well this season, and if coverages give you this, sometimes you just have to take it. And he has been taking it confidently, and when he is on, the shot seemingly drops every time. But this has been Levert's only real weakness this season. Caris has been inconsistent at times. Some games he is on, looks aggressive, and is knocking down every jumper in sight. whereas others he seems to be less aggressive driving, takes too many threes when they aren't falling, and isn't confident and fluid in his game. I think a lot of this comes down from playing with a lot of guards and ball handlers who are at a similar level to him in DAngelo Russell and Spencer Dinwiddie. These two guys are also great offensive guards, and Kenny Atkinson would have instructed the team to spread the ball, move it around, and ensure teams get great shots instead of good ones. And you can see on the court that Levert is dedicated to this. He swings the ball willingly, especially to DAngelo Russell. But adjusting to perhaps being the most efficient scorer on the team is tough, and Caris will have to learn to balance when he gets his versus when he engages in the team mentality a little bit more. When he does, he'll be a fantastic complementary piece for a strong Nets team, and now they just need a star. The player that the Nets had probably hoped would become their offensive star is DAngelo Russell. Russell was the ex-number 2 pick in the draft the Nets acquired when they took on the contract of Timofey Mozgov. There is no denying that D'Lo is an incredibly talented offensive player. He has that deceptive pace and 2-speed acceleration that allows him to rock people to sleep off the dribble. But where most of his talent and potential comes from is his shooting. Russell has an exceptionally fast release and can shoot off the dribble and off the catch and shoot. Over his first 2 years in the league, he shot 35% from deep, and then last season he shot a disappointing 32%. This was amid a season of ups and downs for Russell as his role on the team changed and he struggled to find a groove. This year, he has come out scorching hot from deep and is shooting 47.7% from deep. This number won't be sustainable, but the Nets will be hoping that he can keep up around 40% for the rest of the season. If he can, it will open up his game even more, and he might go back to being a really dangerous guard. The Russell situation for the Nets is super interesting, and they have to make a decision this offseason about how much they want to pay him. Due to his defensive deficiencies, it could be tough to gauge, and I think Brooklyn will likely let the market decide his value, and then they will consider whether or not they want to match. But DAngelo likely will never become competent enough on the defensive end to be a true max player level of star. The player who is this guy and is on the Nets and has this potential is Jarrett Allen. Allen is a 7-foot afroed athletic monster who shows the potential to be dominant on both ends of the basketball court. The biggest thing that stands out with Allen is his athletic style of defense and rebounding that he plays with. Jarrett has a fantastic vertical leap, is really quick for his size, and can rotate to protect the rim when a ball handler beats their man. This allows for him to get a lot of fantastic blocks and highlight plays that he's become semi-known for in his early career. And while these plays are fantastic, I think that there is still room for improvement at this level of defensive play. Allen will need to learn to stay down a bit more so as not to bite on pump fakes and foul a little bit less. This will allow him to stay on the court for longer, affect more shots, and grab more rebounds. But for now, he is doing a fine job of contesting shots and then getting up to grab the rebound as well. This is due to his incredible second jump ability. A lot of players have the verticality and athleticism required to fly high once, but it is rare to see guys who can then immediately spring back up almost just as high and just as fast. Being able to do this makes him excellently positioned to rebound and contest shots on the same possession. And he is doing this, grabbing 7 rebounds a game in just 27 minutes at age 20. And then on the offensive end, Allen has shown all kinds of potential. He's a smart player and knows that his role is largely to get to the rim and set screens. And he is damn good at this. Allen sets hard screens and rolls to the rim well and is athletic enough to get up for lob passes that a lot of big men can't catch. He's in the mold of the modern NBA big man, an athletic rebounder that defends well and can set screens and roll to the basket as well. On top of this, he's developing a 3-pointer and has attempted 1 per game so far this season. It is a tiny sample size, but they're going in a rate of 33%, are an indication that Allen is working on this aspect of his game. If he can develop a decent outside shot over the course of his career, then he becomes one of the more interesting young centers in the league. It would allow him to space the floor when not involved in the action and drag good rim protectors away from the rim. This could make him a fantastic two-way player on the court and a guy that doesn't need the ball much to have a huge impact on the game. And most of the stuff that he's doing this year is all at the age of 20. Most big men don't really get good until they turn 23 to 25 years old. Allen has so much time to develop his game and grow into a fantastic key piece for the Brooklyn Nets. And all of this has been achieved by Sean Marks, the GM who took on the job when the Nets were in absolutely dire place. he has fixed the franchise through a series of careful moves and attempting to ensure he doesn't sign bad contracts or trade away draft picks in order to pick up cheap wins. Instead, he acquired cap space, used it to take bad contracts in exchange for gaining draft picks, and picked up DAngelo Russell in the process. He and his team then nailed the draft by getting athletic hoopers like Allen and Levert, and now they looked poised to re-enter the playoff picture after an eternity out of them. It likely won't happen this season, but next offseason is the one to watch out for the Nets. They will have $60 million in cap space this season, and they can offer 2 max contracts to stars. If they did this, they might struggle to re-sign Russell or Dinwiddie, but I think that the Nets will be willing to move on from one or both of these players if they can sign a star. And the player I think they will start by targeting is Jimmy Butler. Butler indicated he wanted to come to Brooklyn when his whole trade fiasco was going down, and New York is undeniably a great city to live in, and I wouldn't be surprised if that played into Jimmy's considerations. The team would also be 100% his, and they already have young pieces around him to complement his talent. If they could somehow convince another genuine star to come to Brooklyn, I think they could convince him and Jimmy to come on down. But whether or not this happens isn't the big deal. The big deal is that Sean Marks has put Brooklyn in the position to be able to do this. 3 years ago, this was unimaginable. But now, the future is bright for the Nets, and the 2 New York teams should have a strong rivalry for years to come. But for this season, just enjoy Caris Levert and Jarrett Allen and their enormous potential. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, be sure to leave a like and subscribe for more NBA videos in the future, and be sure to hit the bell for notifications as well. And let me know in the comments what you think of the Brooklyn Nets' future.